Hello, friends, and welcome to today's episode. There are times in life when we feel so hopeless and sad that nothing but a miracle could help us. We don't think anything good will happen. It looks like life is hard and dull. As if the whole world were a desert where happiness could never grow. If you're like me and wonder why you're so down, this story will make you feel the same way. When you read about the people you're about to meet, you might feel your heart melt. Ben Garcia was supposed to carry mail in Arvada, Colorado, but he went the wrong way on a path. But he had no idea that one mistake would lead to a day he didn't expect. Surprisingly, this wasn't the end of the story. Instead, he had to quickly put on his military boots. What happened on that day that wasn't so nice? When the doorknob rings and the postman says, "You have a letter," it's very exciting. And the excitement we feel when we open the package or letter is even more exciting. When we're waiting for a package that day and it's late, even by a minute, we start to worry. Ben Garcia, on the other hand, was a mailman who did his job with all his heart, but the stars probably weren't in his favor that day. Ben Garcia is one of the best mail carriers. He has done a great job at his job and probably would have kept doing it if he hadn't been in such a bad situation that day. He worked quickly and made mental notes of the best route to take to deliver as many packages as possible at the right time. But Ben loved it when people waved at him and told him how good he was at his job. Also, seeing the happy smiles on the faces of people to whom he had just brought the mail or a package made his day. One bad day, things went from bad to worse for him. People should know that the United States Post Office does a specific job. The work is well split up, and the process is organized and works well. And arranging packages and mail by zip codes is one of the most time-consuming and important jobs. Then they are tied together and set up to be sent. This is how things have always worked, and this is what experts have been taught to do. That's not all, either. Postal workers are given different routes, and once they've been on a route for a while, they can remember even the hardest and most complicated ones. Since the roads didn't change much, it was surprising that Ben Garcia took the wrong turn that day. Why did he do that? Ben was always praised for his work, so when the hard-working man at work decided to go in a different direction, it was very strange. It was something no one ever thought Ben would do. Even Ben probably wouldn't have thought that one long turn would make it a day he'll never forget. In February, it was a cold Sunday morning. And, like always, Ben Garcia went to work. Even though it was cold, he did his work quickly and got the packages to the right places. And later that day, he had to work for a coworker who couldn't come in because he was sick. Things turned around at this point. Garcia was covering for another mailman, so he didn't really know what route he was meant to follow to bring the next batch of mail. Even though he made the most of the day and got all the packages to their destinations, one package was still left. He had no idea that this one box and his future would be tied together. Ben was a little lost while driving because he had never been on this road before. Even though he was trying to make sure he was going in the right direction, he had lost his way. The day went by quickly, but when the last package was delivered, things got messy. And soon it will only get worse. Ben was already grumbling about getting lost and going the wrong way when the next thing that happened made things even worse for him. In that cold ice, his delivery van broke down. The delivery, which would normally take him 30 minutes, was suddenly taking more than an hour longer. By then, he was angry. Luckily, the rest of the day wasn't too bad either. A neighbor who was walking by saw Ben and offered to help. After some trouble with the ice and not knowing where to go, Ben was finally able to get out of the situation. But he didn't know that there was an even bigger trouble coming. As Ben drove forward, he took a turn a little earlier than he should have. He ended up coming on a street where people live. But he was hoping he could figure out how to get out, and then he saw something that changed the day in a way he didn't expect. Ben was on a street he didn't know trying to find the spot where that package was meant to go. Then he saw a figure that looked like a woman waving at him. Ben didn't understand why a woman was waving to him and what she was doing in the freezing cold snow. Ben told himself, "I've had enough of this day, and this sight is making me even more angry." He knew it wasn't a typical day, but he couldn't look away from the woman who was staring at him. What did she do? How did she get there? And he had a lot of similar thoughts. It was just the start of how things would go. Connie Nolan was the name of the woman. She was very old and needed help right away. Just 20 minutes ago, the old lady chose to go to church, but when she got there, she had an emergency and needed help right away. No one could have known what would happen next, given Ben's mood. Most likely, it was a bad morning in February. Nothing was working out as planned. Ben's day didn't get off to a good start, and when Connie came into the picture, things didn't look good for her either. The poor lady also had a string of bad things happen to her. What was going on with Connie, and how could Ben relate to it? As Connie was leaving her house, a terrible accident happened in her garage. Connie said, "My right thigh is paralyzed, and I happened to step forward with that leg, so I fell like a ton of bricks." She definitely needed help right away. Even more happened. When she fell, the sudden force of the fall broke only her right leg, and she couldn't even stand. She was in a great deal of pain. And since it was snowing, no one else was crossing the street to help her. Ben did something bad, and at the time, neither of them knew how closely their lives were tied together. Connie is as useless as she could be. She couldn't get out of that driveway, so all she could do was hope for a miracle. She was just hoping that someone would grab her and save her. She looked up and saw Garcia's truck. Connie told herself, "Please help whoever is in that truck turn on their left-hand turn signal so they can find me." Lucky for the old lady, Ben took the wrong turn and saw her. Ben walked up to the woman without knowing what was going on. Garcia ignores all the problems he had to deal with that day and asks the woman to come up. Ben told the local news that he saw her waving as he turned into the wrong lane. When he saw that she was off balance, he asked her if there was any way he could help her. When Ben realized how bad things were, he completely lost track of the package he still had to deliver. He chose to help the woman first. He helps her get up. He had to hold the woman up because the ground was so slippery. Ben had a hard time making the woman feel at ease because she was a bit overweight. He was able to get the woman out of the driveway and make her sit on the stairs, which was a good thing. Then, he tries to get in touch with any of her family members and waits with the woman until they get to the place where they're going to ask for help. After that happened, Ben and Connie were finally able to meet, and it was like a homecoming. Ben came to see how Connie was feeling. Connie felt like she was meeting the man who saved her life and got her back on her feet. The local news chose to record this moment and story because it was so unusual. Ben's arrival made Connie very happy. She gives him a hug right away. But the old woman got into trouble. She had gotten some very bad wounds. Even though it looked like a break, it was more than that. She broke both her tibia and her fibula, so she had to use a wheelchair. After the tearful meeting, the local media prepares for the interview. The two of them talked about what happened that day and how Ben's wrong turn saved Connie's life. Connie held Ben's hand tightly the whole time. Connie didn't know how to thank Ben for being kind. Holding his hand was an easy way for her to thank him for what he had done, his love, and his kindness. He was kind, which is something that many people don't do. Connie was happy that the postman stopped what he was doing and went home to help her. She was moved by what he did. If he hadn't taken the wrong turn and gotten there on time, things would have been terrible for her. She was moved to tears and told him he was a hero. Ben turned down Connie's suggestion that he was a hero right away. Ben told her that if anyone had been on his side, they would have done the same thing because it was the right thing to do. He did what any good person would have done. He also says, "I was just there at the right time, in the right place." But once you find out what Ben did for a living before, you can't help but call him a hero. Ben served his country in the war before he joined the mail service. And what he has done is amazing. Ben had served in Afghanistan, where he got a Purple Heart for his service. And this is something that is very respected in the Army field. A Purple Heart is only given to service members who were hurt or killed on the job. He had been in the Army for so long. Ben didn't take hero as a badge of honor for himself, but he does admit that when he saw that woman in pain, his Army instincts took over. He couldn't have left the woman in pain on the road, no matter what. Connie had more to say, though. Connie says that she doesn't care what Ben says, she really thinks that it's a sign of how great he is that he doesn't take credit for helping her. She says more by saying that he not only got a Purple Heart, but also has a golden heart because he helped out of the goodness of his heart. Garcia understood that his job was more than just moving packages from one place to another. For him, the most important part of the job was making other people feel special. He has always tried to look out for the people in his neighborhood, which makes her feel proud. After the show, Connie doesn't know how she could ever pay off the bill. You don't have to, I'm just glad you're okay. God seemed to want me to take the wrong turn. It was meant for me to find you, said Garcia. This event has shown that we still have good in us, and people like Garcia show us that sharing happiness is the most beautiful thing we can do. That's it for today, friends. Please let us know what you think about this story. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon for more amazing stories.